Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Bob's Bush Rescue. I've now epoxy primered the wheel arch and I'm now going to move on to matting it back and then actually putting the Raptor paint on, but with a single stage 2-pack paint mixed into it to give it a tint to the Merino Gelb, the Merino Orange paint colour that I have on the bus. L20A, I think it is, as a paint code. Yes, so that's what we're about to do now. So here we are. We've got the wheel arch painted. I'll give you a quick look around. I've started matting some of it back. As I've said before, it's not very good. It's not the best, but it's okay. It mats back okay. I've got some paint runs in places where I've been starting to remove them there. I've just matted that back there, and then I've got to mat back there. You can see here, wherever I can put the light down and still be able to see what we're trying to see. You can see the way it all builds up paint there, mainly because I had to put it on a narrow nozzle to turn the fan off on the paint gun, which then allowed me to shoot from down here into the wheel arch. But obviously I must have held on a little bit there and I've got to build up a paint, and I think that's happened somewhere else as well. It's happened around here as well. But it's got paint on. It will matte back and then I can get the Raptor paint on it. It's sealed with an epoxy primer now, so that's the main thing. Yeah, so as I say, it's not brilliant, but it will do as a primer coat. And then obviously when I get around to real paint, I'm going to have a lot more practice. That's it, basically, or else it's going to be terrible. I'm going to be doing a lot of times sanding. So I've got paint runs to get rid of, so I'm just going to mat it back now. I'm just matting it back with 240. I'm really impressed with this MIPA paint. This MIPA, because it's an epoxy primer. Epoxy primer is meant to be, it's meant to be terrible for, I'll just talk to you whilst lying on the trolley. Epoxy primer is meant to be terrible for bugging up the actual paint, the grit paper. But this MIPA EP Welding filler, or whatever it's called, I can't quite remember. It doesn't. It just comes up like a normal primer. So it's really good. It's really nice stuff, especially for finishing. So I'm really quite pleased with that, because that could have been a hard job. So we can carry on in a happiness in our hearts, or my heart anyway. So yes, I'll just carry on sanding this down. I'll get it sanded through, and then once it's all matted back, I shall then get the paint mixed up for the Raptor paint. That's a bit more of a process. It's about 3 to 1. 3 to 1 with regard to the Raptor Clear and its hardener. Then the single stage paint has to be mixed at 2 to 1 with its hardener. The single stage has to be thinned down with a urethane thinner, and so does the Raptor paint. So you have to mix them both separately, thin them down separately, let their chemical reactions happen, and then you can mix them together after about 15 or 20 minutes. And then, you know, I've got about an hour to work with the Raptor paint once it's got the hardener in it. So if I've got to wait 20, 15 minutes for a chemical reaction, probably only got about 45 minutes left. And that's more than enough time for just this small area here. It's not as if it's a massive area. So, but it just makes it slightly more complicated for me, which complications are never the nicest thing to do. So it makes it more complicated. Hopefully not, though. I am also, once I've got this matted back, before I do any painting, I'm going to go around with some seam sealer, because the old seam sealer here has actually survived. You can see where the seam sealer is, but it's got gaps in some places. So well, there's gaps there, so I need to fill in with some more seam sealer there and around here. So there's a few places where I just need to go over with the seam sealer. So I'm going to do that as well. So suddenly some black seam sealer will appear. But it'll all get covered by the Raptor paint anyway, so that's not a problem. Going to use a 2mm nozzle with the AeroPro LVLP gun. That's what's recommended for Raptor paint with the mix ratio that I'm going to do and the temperature that we're at as well. It's quite thick, so it's got to go out with a big nozzle. So we'll see how it works. I'm quite interested and curious to see how this is going to work out. Let's have a go and see what happens. So I'm just about ready to mix up this U-Pole Raptor paint, but with some tinted paint. The bus is actually in the Merino Gelb, Merino Orange. So here I have that's the Raptor Clear. I also have the Raptor Hardener. So that needs a thinner reducer. So I actually have some, this is U-Pole S2042 thinner, or reducer, whichever you like to call it, which I can also use with the paint that I have. So I've got some Delfleet 350 Merino Gelb here, which is just in a plain tin. That's a single stage 2-pack. I've spent a while shaking that. That's after a really good shake. So that's got a fast hardener to go with that, the S2030 or stroke 1, whatever that means. Maybe it's a revision 1, I don't know. So what I intend to do, and I can use this reducer with those. I can also use it with these, which is great. The thing about this is what you're meant to do is you're meant to mix these up together, let their chemical reactions start to happen. You're meant to mix these up together, let their chemical reaction happen, and then mix them together. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, eh? Now, looking at my pot, put my glasses on. So the Raptor paint runs at a 3:1, so I've got my 3:1 marking on here. So I'm going to mix quite a pot full. I'm going to go for the number 4 on here. So that's 3:1 there, then the 1 there, then 10% thinners. Now the other thing is it says use 10% of the single stage paint, so that takes, you know, that'll take me to the 20%, so I'll fill it that much, and about that much is somewhere along the lines of, when you look them out, it's probably only about 30 mil of paint, maybe 50 mil. So what I'm going to do is I'll mix up the single stage 2-pack in this one, mix the Raptor paint up in this one, and I'm going to add the single stage to the Raptor when it's ready to go in. And to do that, I have to get all the mask on and everything because of the nastiness of all this stuff. So, and you just need to make sure you don't get any bits in your pots. Obviously this one's covered, so I've been sensible there. I don't think I'm going to be able to strain this. You know, I usually strain my paint, but I will strain the Delfleet, so I've got a paint strainer there. That'll do. Right, catch up with you in a bit once I've got my kit on and we're mixing.
I've got the PPE on, let's get cracking. I think because of the time constraints, I'll put the Raptor in this pot first, but not put the hardener in yet. Then I'll mix the 2-pack single stage, which has got a faster reaction time, and then I'll put the Raptor in, and then all together. So putting the Raptor in here first just saves me a little bit of time, really. So that needs the hardener and the thinner. I could, if the thinner wasn't a fast thinner, I could mix it in now. Because it's so fast and it evaporates off quick. So let's get in here and give it a... That'll go. Simple as the bus. So I'm just going to get this in just in case it works. I did try to do that masking tape trick the other day. It didn't really work for me. I'm going to try it again. I don't know why it didn't work. I've seen a few people use it who do paint videos. We'll give it a go. Right, so I am only going to number 1. Out the way. Right, that seems to work. That worked. That did work. Look at that. That's still good. Marvellous. We'll put that away. Our 15-year-old single stage. Which seems to be in good nick. Right, so fast hardener first. So we're on 2 to 1. Reacting of it. Set a timer. Don't put the thinner in yet. I'll put the hardener in this now. So this is on 3 to 1. So there we are there. Now we've got a 2mm nozzle in the gun. So here we go, fast thinner reducer now.
So just finished painting the wheel arch with the Raptor paint, which I've tinted. So here we go. It's not brilliant. So the actual colour itself doesn't look like Merino Gelb. So Merino Gelb, this is like a yellow. It also goes on a bit thin, so where I'd burnt through the epoxy primer with sanding, it goes on very thin and there's hardly any pigment in it, because when you pigment the Raptor paint, it's not a lot of pigment. So my advice to myself is I'm going to have to matte this back, I think, and do it all again. Re-epoxy primer it. I shall buy some new single stage 2-pack paint in Merino Gelb, because something's gone wrong with the tint on this. It could be the way it reacts with the Raptor paint, I don't know. Maybe it needs more coats. Doesn't look like it. But I can just hear my neighbour in the background doing a job, swearing. Obviously something's gone wrong. So, which is what I should be doing here really, but I'm not going to bother. So, let's see here. So you can see I've got a mottled appearance here, so because I put it on a bit too thick just there, so that's weird. But it went on well in the actual underside of the bus. It did go quite well. Not too bad. Bit of overspray, I mean too much spraying there. I've even scraped it there. I scraped it with the gun, I think, maybe there. So yeah, it's a difficult job, this. Wheel well. I've got the, where it's gone on thick, got that sort of problem there, which is not what I wanted. You know, where it's there. You can't really see it very well there. Let me put a bit more light on it. You've got to get the angle right for the shadow and there as well. I'm really not very good at painting. Hi there, I've just been drawn back to my computer to try and do some research on what's been going on with that paint and why the tint colour is so thin. I wish I'd done this research beforehand, because I've just had a chat on the phone with some people. I've been talking to these people, the Car Paint Warehouse. Really friendly people, very good advice. The kind of thing that you don't really find out on the internet when you don't know how to do a job, which is a bit unfortunate. And it's more, not that it's the kind of thing you couldn't find out, it's just really specialists' advice about yellow paint. Yellow paint apparently is incredibly transparent, and it just so happens that's the paint I'm using. So I've painted things in the past which have been real primary colours. I've never had a problem with them. It's just never been an issue. But apparently when you're painting with yellow, the guy on the phone was describing to me the amount of tinter that they put in, and it's into the 98-99% transparency, and it's only a few percent of the actual pigment that goes in there to get the colour. The biggest piece of advice, and that he said was really important, is he said, I need to make sure that I've painted it white. So I need to get a white primer on it. And he said, then you stand a chance of getting the colour that you want. He also said, potentially that maybe a few coats of the Raptor paint with that yellow inside it might help me along. So he said, but yeah, if you get it white, he said that's worth a try. He didn't guarantee me that that's going to work. I asked him, because they also sell a concentrated tinter pouch for changing the colour of Raptor Clear Raptor paint. And they do this in any colour, and you can just ask them and they'll do the paint code for you because they're really good people. But he did advise me that for the single stage paint that I've got, I'm probably better off just using that, because he didn't think it'd make an awful lot of difference. He said it's so transparent, the colour. The biggest change would be to get it into a white primer. So now I could do. It'd be nice if I can find a MIPA epoxy primer which is in white. I do think they do it. I'm sure I've seen it somewhere. That would make my life a lot easier, because I can just start using that everywhere then, rather than using the grey, which is annoying because I've got several tins of the grey. The conclusion is I need to get some white primer. Hopefully it'll be a MIPA epoxy primer. So I think I'll call it a day there. Done quite a lot of work recently, so I now need to go and acquire some product and wait for that to come, and also get that Raptor paint sanded back so that I've got a good key to work off. Either that or I take it all the way back to bare metal. So, like I say, you live and you learn, don't you? So I'll see you soon. Take care now.